So, just got a question on one of my videos. I thought this might be kind of fun way of something fun to do on the video. Answer questions. So, this question here is, what is the best way a noob can get oriented using goggles? Any tips would be greatly appreciated. That's a great question. This is from I'll See You Soon Enough. Interesting name. Like it. Best way to get oriented. So, I'm guessing he's talking about being able to know where you're at when you're flying around. And being able to tell which way you are, particularly when you start going upside down, flipping around, and all of that kind of stuff. And this is a good question here. This is something that I struggled with myself, and I still do a good bit. Best way. First thing would be to know your area. So find an area that you're familiar with, that that you can get to on a regular basis, so that you can fly this area regularly. Because this is going to be the best way that you're going to be able to orient yourself just in any general situation, is to find an area first that you're familiar with, you know where everything's at, that's convenient so that you can fly here on a regular basis. That's important because if you're familiar with the area, it makes it a lot easier to learn this. And then once you learn the way of being able to tell which way you're oriented, which way you're facing, what's next to you, all that kind of stuff. As you learn that, then when you go to areas that you're not familiar with, you can kind of do a quick walkthrough and you can kind of learn what's around you and be more adept at being able to adjust to new surroundings. And then once you found an area that you're familiar with, I think the best way to learn is to learn by not trying to do all the crazy stuff first. First learn just basically flying around, right? Just kind of cruise around the area, learn where things are at, learn how quickly you can move from from point A to point B to point C. How quickly does your quad do that? As you kind of get familiar with that and you're doing okay, just kind of cruising around, then I would say you want to introduce something kind of simple. You want to kind of go buy something that you got some room with and just kind of do a roll and see what that looks like as you do a roll as you're going by it. And try to land your roll to where you're straight and just keep cruising, and then come back around, do a roll again, maybe the opposite direction. And then, you gradually introduce some of these things. And then, you might want to, after you do some rolls like that, you might want to try to do a front flip or a back flip, all the way over, first. Kind of get oriented on what that looks like as you're going by these obstacles or near these obstacles. So you can see how your quad reacts. Also, it kind of reinforces in your mind that, okay, so I'm going forward and I drop the throttle and I roll forward. I come off of that roll. I'm not any closer to the object that's to my left or right. I'm basically tracking forward. But then you also want to see how far did I progress distance-wise from, where I started the roll to where I finished the roll. Go back, look at your footage, see how far it was that you went. Look at that in the goggles as you pay attention to that. What was next to me? So in my case here, I've got these trees, I got a pole, and I've got some stands, and I've got some sort of building here and some more stands. And so as I go by there, I kind of do a roll or front flip. I'm looking to see what that looks like in my goggles, as I'm going by those things, to see how far forward I progressed. I started at the tree, and by the time I finished my roll, I was over there, all the way by this building, way down through there. And so, maybe that is something you want to do. You want to do that again, like with, like a roll both ways, and see how far you progress. Also notice how far vertically you fall as you do those things. So like you punch just a little bit, you roll, and see how far down you come off of that. Try one where you don't punch. You start a little higher and do a roll and see how far you fall. You want to get familiar with your quad. You want to know how it feels in the air and what to expect. And that's, again, why you want to do this in an area that's familiar. And you also want to do this in an area that's got some obstacles, but you got some room too, if you can. Because if you're still in open field, you're not going to be able to tell this. You're not going to be able to tell, how far did I fall, because it's all going to look the same. 10 feet off the ground, 20 feet off the ground, 30 feet off the ground, all look really similar in the goggles, when you're flying forward. You can tell you're lower, but you don't have that gauge of just how low I am. You need some obstacles to gauge how high off the ground you are, so that when you do these maneuvers, how long do I have? How slow can I roll before I need to make sure that I'm all the way back over to catch it? you know, those sorts of things. The big one for me, though, was, and it's the one I still have trouble with, you know, to an extent, which is part of the reason why I was working on some of the flying that I was doing today, is being more aware of the space around me and where I'm at in relation to that. And that kind of goes back also to the, you know, you go buy something, you roll, see how long it takes you to go based on how fast you're going, some of those things. But just knowing where things are at, what's behind me, what's to the left of me, what's to the right of me. You know, a wider angle lens, you know, helps seeing left and right and top and bottom to a point, but there's still so much, there's only so much you can see. And then the wider you get, the more difficult it is to fly close to things, because things get smaller until you're right up on them. So, you know, there's pros and cons to that. There's a sweet spot there, and you got to find what works for you. For me, I've adjusted to 1.8, and I really like it. I don't think I could go any more than that. I don't even know if they make them that go any more than that. But this one works pretty well. It's really wide, but not overly so. At least it doesn't perceive to me to be overly wide or tall, but I can see really good. And then you just got to work on, you know, like fly, for instance, if you want to see, you know, how far back you go from something, maybe fly toward a tree, kind of come up on the tree and kind of come back and then kind of level out and see, you know, what that feels like kind of going backwards, because being able to be comfortable going backwards is key. And then as you come back, you kind of turn around and see what's, you know, near you. Practice flying around objects, and by that I mean kind of like practice trying to orbit an object. You know, you go toward it and kind of fly around it and keep it in view, and you know, find, you know, it's nice if you can find an area that's a little tighter, so you can work on keeping a, you know, specific distance around that object as you're spinning around it, because that's kind of disorienting as you go around it. Practice doing combination maneuvers. You know, again, you want to have stuff around you to do this, but you don't want stuff to be so much to where you don't have any room to work. So let me take you over here and show you what I mean by this. So I don't know how well we'll be able to see this in this camera or not, but if you look down through here, we've got a tree, and then we got, you know, poles, stands, buildings, stands, and over on this side, this is wide open. See, that's wide open. So I've got room here off on the, as I'm going this way out, I've got room on the right to make me feel like I got a little more room. And then I've got stuff close to me though, so I can practice being close to things. And then as I want to progress, I can go to the other side of it. And over here, you've got a fence and a set of stands that are relatively close, and then you've got all those obstacles. So you can fly down through there and do maneuvers in between those items, so you're a little more confined. Then I can do maneuvers in between these objects. So being between those objects helps me gauge, you know, how close I am to things. I can work on being closer to things, but I still have room to escape if things go sour, right? That's kind of what I want. I want to be able to practice, but I want to practice in an area that if something goes sour, I can escape it easily. I don't have to worry about being like I'm going to hit something. Like, you don't want to try to practice getting oriented with spatial awareness in a really tight schoolyard, for instance. You've got, you know, building, fences, trees, all that kind of stuff, you know, right up on you. That's great. It looks awesome when you're flying around that stuff. But if you're trying to learn, you're going to break a lot of stuff. Not unless you're wanting to break stuff, you know, by all means, go for it. But just be aware that it's going to be a lot harder to learn the more you break. You want to not break stuff to be able to learn. I feel like I'm rambling in this video. I probably am. So let's see here. So to summarize, I want to try to summarize all this up into just a couple of points. So one, find an area that you're really familiar with, or that's, you know, reasonably close to you, that you can use, that you can become familiar with. So it doesn't matter if you're really familiar with the area or not, as long as you can spend some time learning it. It's better if you already are, you know, but if not, and it's reasonably close to you and it's convenient for you and you can do this on a regular basis, because that's the key to this, is being able to do this on a regular basis, then definitely pick that spot. You know, point two, find somewhere, if possible, that has a few obstacles that you can work around. And my Tyrannus, is it speaking to me again? Or is that my, I don't know. 2, find an area that's got a few obstacles that you can kind of work around. You want to have a few things that can kind of help you gauge, you know, how high you are, how far you've went with things. You don't want just an open field to practice your orientation, because you won't be able to tell where you're at. Everything looks the same when it's a big open field. You want something that's kind of got some distinct features that you can work around. It don't have to be a huge area, but you want an area with a little bit of space, you know, and convenient. And let's see here. So, point 3, don't try to do everything. So start out, you know, just cruise around the area. If it's an area you're familiar with, that's fine too, but still just cruise around the area. You know, get very familiar with your quad flying through that particular scenario in all kinds of different directions, you know. But don't be doing flips and rolls and all that kind of stuff at first. Just fly, just cruise through it, see what it feels like, see how quickly you can make turns around things, that kind of maneuvering, you know, just normal, and see if you can do this flying down really low. I guess that's the next point. Practice flying really low. If something goes wrong, you crash, it doesn't hurt nearly as bad if you're down low. You know, I hear people say all the time, you know, if you're going to practice stuff, you know, practice 3 mistakes high. Well, that's okay to practice certain maneuvers, but you're never going to learn orientation that way. You really need to be, and you're never going to get really good at flying if you're flying way up high. You're just not, because there's nothing in your way. You know, it's easy to fly when there's nothing in your way. You can flip, roll, whatever you want to do, and you're not going to hit nothing. It's not a big deal, right? Which is fine if you're just wanting to learn, you know, timing on rolls and stuff, I guess. But if you want to improve, you need to be down low. So practice cruising down low around stuff. You don't have to fly through tight spaces, real tight spaces. Just, you know, an open area with some obstacles, with a couple of trees or something. Fly around those trees down low. Then the next thing is you gradually want to start introducing some acrobatics, and you want to do it in a very specific way. You want to gauge distance that you're traveling as you do these maneuvers. You want to see what it looks like as you're going by these maneuvers at different angles. So as you roll, what does that tree look like? You know, what does the ground look like as I'm rolling past this pole? What does everything look like orientation-wise? And you want to get that timing down so that as you do the rolls, you come out of it and you're nice and clean. And you also want to realize that as I roll, I'm really not moving to the left or the right very much. Same thing for flips. You want to practice doing, you know, front flips, you know, nice and easy front flips as you're going by stuff, close to stuff, so that you can see it as you're doing the roll, so you can gauge how high you are and everything. Also, you can see how far you traveled from the point you started to the point you ended it. Same thing for back flips. Same thing for doing yaw spins. You know, practice just flying and then just kind of dropping throttle and spinning yaw around. See what that looks like as you spin around. What's that look like? You know, yaw is very disorienting when you do that, by the way. So, but you're going to realize as long as you're dropping that throttle, you're not getting closer to the objects, or you shouldn't be getting closer to the objects. If you are, that means you were angled funny. And again, that's another thing to practice. So those few steps there, I think I rambled and rambled and rambled, and hopefully I got some good stuff in there, and hopefully you guys will glean something from this. It probably makes absolutely no sense. Hopefully it does. But I'm going to leave you all with a little bit of footage here, and hopefully y'all enjoy it. I'm just kind of wasting some time today just practicing. You know, that's what I try to do about every day. I try to fly a pack or 2 every day. Today I flew 3 packs. That's all I'm flying. I may fly some later, I may not, but you know, 1 to 3 packs a day is usually about what I do or try to do. You know, if I can get in 1 every day, that's great. If I can get in 2 or 3, that's even better. But I don't try to get a ton in. And I have usually a very specific thing in mind that I want to do whenever I'm doing it. Sometimes I want to go out and get a really good video to make a flight video. And then sometimes I just want to go practice something in particular. So today I wanted to practice some proximity. I wanted to practice in a different spot, but that spot's kind of fenced off, couldn't really get to it without, you know, climbing fences, and I don't feel like doing that. So I came back over here, it was empty, and it's a good spot, and I know the spot well. So it was good for me to practice. About wiped out 2 or 3 times. Did wipe out once, which, you know, that's why I've got my GoPro's there and my quad's over here. You know, wasn't a back crash or anything, but, you know. So hopefully all this rambling, you know, you guys gleaned something from it. And I hope you guys have a great day. Enjoy this little bit of footage, and I will see you all in the next video. Oh, and go out and do something good for somebody. Go inspire somebody to be better. Stop bullies when you see them. All kinds of bullies, cyber bullies, regular bullies. We just had to, yeah, let me tell you this story here. So this will be, nah, I'm not going to tell you this story. Maybe another time. But I've had to deal with bullies too, not me, but my daughter. So maybe I'll tell you all about that later sometime. Probably, maybe not. So I'm going to end this here. You guys have a great day. Watch a little bit of this footage, enjoy it. Go out and do something good for somebody. Go inspire somebody to be better. And I will see you all in the next video. Peace.